Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Right now, there is someone trying to remove you from their heart. They've told themselves it's over. They've forced themselves to move on. They've tried to replace your memory with something new. But no matter what they do, you keep coming back. In their quiet moments, in their late nights, in the silence they cannot escape. You are still there, and the strangest part is, it's no longer their choice. Because if it was, they would have forgotten you by now. So ask yourself this: why does a heart keep returning to someone it knows is gone? What if this isn't just attachment? What if Allah is allowing this for a reason you don't understand yet? And once you see it, you'll realize some people are not easy to forget because they were never meant to be just a memory. Not every connection was meant to be forgotten. Some are written to stay. There are people who pass through your life like a breeze. You meet them, you talk, you share a few moments, and slowly, without even noticing, they fade. No weight, no deep feeling, no lasting other. But then, there are those who don't just pass through your life. They settle into your bulb, quietly, deeply, in a way you can't explain. You don't even realize when it happened. You just wake up one day, and they are there, in your thoughts, in your silence, in the small moments no one else sees. And no matter how much time passes, they don't leave. You try to move on. They try to move on. Life keeps moving forward. But something inside stays stuck. You distract yourself. You tell yourself it's over. You try to accept it. But then suddenly, a memory returns. A small reminder. A feeling. A moment, and it brings everything back again. And you sit there wondering, why can't this just fade like everything else? Because not every connection is temporary. Some are written by Allah in a way that is deeper than logic, stronger than time, and quieter than words. These are not ordinary connections. They are not based only on moments or conversations or time spent together. They touch something inside the soul, something you cannot reach and cannot easily remove. And when something is written like that, forgetting doesn't feel natural. It feels forced. It feels heavy. It feels like you are trying to push away something that your heart is still holding on to. Because the heart recognizes what mattered, even when the situation changes, even when people leave, even when everything on the outside ends, the inside does not always follow. And that's where the struggle begins. Not because you are weak, not because they are weak, but because the connection itself was never light to begin with. It carried something real, something deep, something that left a mark, and marks like that don't disappear overnight. Sometimes they stay longer than you expected, not to hurt you, but to teach you something, to shape you, to prepare you for what Allah has truly written for your life. Because not everyone who stays in your heart is meant to stay in your life forever. But the ones who stay always leave behind a meaning, and that meaning is what you were meant to carry forward. The harder they try to erase you, the deeper you settle in their heart. They tell themselves again and again, I need to stop thinking about them. I need to move on. I need to let this go. They try to stay busy. They fill their time with noise. They surround themselves with people, distractions, anything that can pull their mind away from you. And for a moment, it feels like it's working. They laugh, they talk, they move through their day. But then, in the quiet, when everything slows down, when there is no noise left to hide behind, you come back, not loudly, not suddenly, but gently, like a memory that was waiting, a small reminder, a feeling, a moment they thought they had buried. And just like that, everything returns, because forgetting is not something you can force. The heart doesn't respond to pressure. The more they try to push you out, the more their mind pulls you back in, because what they are trying to erase is something that once felt real, safe, meaningful, and the heart does not easily release what it once accepted so deeply. So every time they say, "I'm done," their thoughts quietly return to you. Every time they try to replace your memory, they compare. Every time they try to distract themselves, something reminds them of you, a place, a word, a feeling they can't explain. And suddenly, you're there again. Because the truth is, you don't erase someone by force. You don't forget something real by decision. You can only release it when the heart is ready. And if the heart is not ready, no matter how strong they act, no matter how much they try, no matter how far they go, you remain. Not because they want to hold on, but because something inside them has not let go yet. And this is where they begin to feel confused, because on the outside, they look like they've moved on, but on the inside, they are still carrying you, still thinking about you, still returning to what once was, and slowly, they begin to understand something they didn't expect. This isn't about control anymore. This isn't about choice. Because if it was a choice, they would have forgotten you already. But what stays, even when someone tries to remove it, is something deeper than choice. It's something that reached the heart in a real way. And when something reaches that level, it doesn't leave just because you tell it to. It stays until it completes what it was meant to do, until the lesson is understood, until the feeling settles, until the heart is ready to release it, naturally. And until that moment comes, no matter how hard they try to erase you, you will continue to quietly live inside them. If Allah wanted you gone, you wouldn't still live inside their thoughts. Think about this. Slowly. If Allah had truly decided that your presence should end completely in their life, then it would have ended. Quietly, naturally, without resistance. There would be no constant return, no late-night thoughts, no sudden memories appearing out of nowhere. You would have become like everyone else who once passed through their life. A name, a moment, and then nothing. But that's not what's happening. Instead, you are still there, in their thoughts, in their silence, in the moments they cannot control. You appear, not because they are trying to hold on, but because something is still being held. And this is where many people get confused. They think, why can't I just forget? Why does this keep coming back? But they forget something important. Hearts are not controlled by us. Hearts are controlled by Allah, and nothing remains inside a heart without His permission. So if your memory is still alive inside them, if your presence still returns again and again, then this is not random. This is not an accident. This is something Allah is allowing for a reason. Maybe it is a test of patience, a test of letting go, a test of whether they choose Allah over their attachment. Or maybe it is a lesson about love, about loss, about understanding what truly matters. Or maybe it is something unfinished, something that was never meant to end the way it did, something that still has a purpose, even if they cannot see it yet. Because Allah does not leave something inside a heart without wisdom behind it. Every feeling, every memory, every return is happening under His control. And sometimes Allah allows someone to stay in your thoughts, not so you can hold on to them forever, but so you can understand something deeper, so you can grow, so you can change, so you can be prepared for what is truly written for you. And this is the part most people don't realize. Just because someone stays in your heart does not always mean they are meant to stay in your life. Sometimes their presence is a sign, but not of reunion, of transformation, of something Allah is doing inside you, through them. So if they are still thinking about you, if your memory keeps returning to them, it's not just emotion, it's something being allowed, something being written in a way they don't fully understand yet. Because if Allah truly wanted you gone, you would have disappeared completely. But the fact that you are still there means the story is not as simple as it seems. They're not just missing you. They're missing who they became with you. They keep telling themselves, I miss them. But if they sit in silence and look deeper, they would realize something they didn't expect. It's not just you they're missing. It's who they were when they were with you. Because when you entered their life, something changed inside them. They felt different, lighter, calmer, more at peace. They smiled without forcing it. They spoke without overthinking. They felt seen, understood, safe. And maybe no one else noticed that change, but they did. Because for the first time, they were not pretending. They were not hiding parts of themselves. They were simply being. And that version of themselves only existed with you. So now, when they try to move on, when they try to forget you, they're not just losing a person, they're losing a feeling, a state, a version of themselves that they don't know how to find again. And that is what hurts the most, because people think they are attached to someone. But many times, they are attached to how that person made them feel, the comfort, the emotional safety, the quiet happiness that didn't need explanation. That feeling becomes a place. And once you've experienced that place, it's very hard to live without it, so they search for it again. In other people, in other moments. But it doesn't feel the same, because what they had with you was not something ordinary. It touched something deeper. It allowed them to become someone they couldn't be anywhere else. And now, every time they think about you, they are not just remembering your face, your voice, your presence. They are remembering themselves, the version that felt complete, the version that didn't feel lost, the version that didn't feel alone. And this is why they can't let go easily. Because letting go of you feels like letting go of that version of themselves, and the heart resists that. It holds on, not because it wants to suffer, but because it doesn't want to lose what felt real. But here is the deeper truth. That version of themselves was never created by you alone. It was something Allah allowed them to experience through you, a glimpse of what they are capable of feeling, a glimpse of peace, connection, emotional presence, and maybe that feeling was not meant to stay tied to one person. Maybe it was meant to show them what they deserve, what they are capable of, what their heart is searching for. So yes, they miss you. But even more than that, they miss who they became with you. And until they understand that, they will keep going back, not just to you, but to the version of themselves they are still trying to find again. Some endings feel unnatural because they were never meant to end that way. There are some endings in life that feel quiet, settled, complete. You walk away, and even if it hurts, there is a strange kind of peace inside you, a feeling that says it's over and it's okay. But then there are other endings that don't feel complete, endings that don't feel clear, endings that feel like something was cut before it was ready to end. And those are the ones that stay. Those are the ones that keep returning to the heart again and again without permission, because deep inside, something doesn't sit right. It feels like a conversation that was never finished, a story that stopped in the middle, a door that closed before you even understood why it opened. You try to accept it. You try to move forward. You tell yourself, this is how it was meant to be. But your heart keeps questioning it, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, persistently. Because when an ending is natural, the heart eventually settles. But when an ending feels forced, the heart resists. It keeps going back, replaying moments, searching for answers that were never given. You remember small details you didn't think mattered. You think about words that were never said. You imagine how things could have been if it didn't end the way it did. And slowly, without realizing, you get pulled back into something that already ended on the outside, but never truly ended on the inside. This is what makes it so heavy, because you are not just dealing with loss, you are dealing with incompleteness. And incompleteness keeps the heart active. It keeps the feelings alive. It keeps the memory fresh. It keeps the connection unfinished, because the heart is still trying to reach a conclusion it never received. And this is why some people cannot forget. Not because they are holding on out of weakness, but because something inside them is still unresolved, still searching, still trying to understand, still trying to make sense of an ending that didn't feel real. But here is the deeper truth most people don't realize. Not every ending that feels unnatural means it was wrong. Sometimes Allah allows something to end in a way you don't understand, in a way that feels incomplete, confusing, even painful, because that very incompleteness is what shapes you. It forces you to reflect, to question, to grow in ways you never would have if everything ended perfectly. Because if every story gave you closure, you would never look deeper. But when something feels unfinished, it stays with you. It changes you. It pushes you towards something greater. And sometimes, what feels like an incomplete ending is actually part of a bigger story you cannot see yet. A story where Allah is redirecting you, protecting you, preparing you, even if your heart is still trying to hold on to what felt right. So yes, some endings feel unnatural. They feel sudden, unclear, even unfair. But that feeling is not always a sign that something was meant to stay forever. Sometimes, it's a sign that the ending happened in a way your heart cannot yet understand. And until that understanding comes, the heart will keep returning. Not because the story is still alive, but because it is still trying to make sense of how it ended. Their mind says move on, but their heart keeps bringing you back. They've already decided, in their mind, that it's over. They've created the reasons, built the explanations, repeated the logic until it sounds convincing. It wasn't right for me. It had to end. It's better this way. And on the surface, it all makes sense. They wake up. They go through their day. They act normal. They speak like someone who has accepted everything. But then, in the quiet moments, something shifts. A thought appears. Without warning, a memory returns. Without permission, a feeling rises. Without explanation. And suddenly, all that logic feels distant, because the mind may decide, but the heart does not obey that easily. The mind works with reasons. The heart works with what it felt, and what the heart felt was real. So even if they tell themselves to move on, even if they try to convince themselves that it's finished, the heart keeps pulling them back, not always in big ways. Sometimes it's subtle, a small reminder in a random moment, a feeling that appears when they least expect it, a silence that suddenly feels heavier than usual, and in that silence, you are there. Because the heart doesn't forget based on logic. It doesn't release based on arguments. It holds on until it understands, until it settles, until it heals. And when the heart is not ready, no amount of thinking, explaining, or forcing can truly move it forward. So they live in this quiet conflict. On the outside, they are moving on. On the inside, they are still returning. They try to replace the memory, but comparisons begin. They try to focus on something new, but something feels missing, because the heart is still connected, even if the situation is no longer there. And this is what confuses them the most, because they don't want to go back, but they also cannot fully leave. They understand, but they don't feel. They accept, but they don't release. And slowly, they begin to realize something deeper. This is not about weakness. This is not about being unable to move on. This is about the heart taking its own time, because the heart heals differently. It doesn't follow deadlines. It doesn't follow decisions. It doesn't follow what people say you should feel. It moves when it is ready. And sometimes, Allah allows this inner conflict to stay for a while, so they can learn patience, so they can understand their own heart, so they can grow beyond what they once held on to. Because if the heart let go as quickly as the mind decided, there would be no depth, no reflection, no transformation, no real change. So if their mind keeps saying, move on, but their heart keeps bringing you back, it means something inside them is still in the process, still understanding, still healing, still slowly letting go in a way that is real. Because when the heart finally releases, it doesn't return again, but until that moment comes. No matter how strong the mind becomes, the heart will keep reminding them of what it once truly felt, what Allah connected deeply. Distance cannot silently destroy. Time moves forward, quietly, without asking anyone. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and slowly, everything on the outside begins to change. People go their separate ways. Conversations stop. Routines shift. Lives begin to look completely different from what they once were. And from the outside, it seems like everything has ended. like the distance has done its job, like the connection has faded. But then, in the middle of an ordinary moment, something unexpected happens. A thought appears, a memory returns, a feeling rises without warning, and suddenly, it feels like nothing ever really left, because some connections do not follow distance. They do not weaken just because time has passed. They do not disappear just because people are no longer in each other's lives. Because what Allah connects at a deeper level is not built only on presence. It is placed within the heart. And what is placed in the heart does not depend on how close or far someone is. You can be miles apart, living completely different lives, not speaking, not seeing, not knowing anything about each other anymore. But still, something remains, a quiet awareness, a subtle pull, a memory that still carries weight, because distance can separate bodies, but it cannot always separate what Allah has written in the qalb. And this is where many people get confused. They think, if we are not in each other's lives anymore, why does it still feel like this? Because not every connection was built on circumstances. Some were built on something deeper, something that reached the soul, something that left an imprint, and imprints like that do not disappear just because time has passed. They stay in a quiet way, not always loud, not always constant, but present. And sometimes Allah allows that presence to remain, not to keep you stuck, but to remind you of something, to show you what your heart is capable of feeling, to teach you what depth really looks like, to prepare you for what is truly written for you. Because if you never experienced something real, you would not recognize it when it comes again. And sometimes, what you felt with someone was not meant to stay with them forever, but it was meant to stay within you as a lesson, as a mayar, as a reminder of what your heart should never settle below. So yes, distance can end conversations. Distance can change situations. Distance can separate lives completely, but it cannot always erase what Allah has connected deeply. Because what is written in the heart does not follow distance. It follows meaning, and anything that carries real meaning will remain until it has fulfilled its purpose in your life. If it truly ended, their heart wouldn't still be searching for you. There is a difference between something that ends and something that feels like it ended. Some endings are clear. You feel it slowly, quietly. The heart settles. The thoughts become lighter. The memories stop pulling you back. There is still pain. Yes. But there is also a strange peace that follows. A feeling that says, it's over, and I understand. But then, there are endings that don't feel like that at all. Endings where the mind accepts it, but the heart keeps resisting. Endings where everything looks finished on the outside, but inside, something is still searching for answers, searching for meaning, searching for something it never received. And this is where the confusion begins, because they tell themselves, I've moved on, I've accepted it, I'm done. But then, a moment comes, unexpectedly, and their heart returns to you. Not because they chose it, but because something inside them is still incomplete. Because the heart does not search for what it has fully released. When something truly ends within the heart, it doesn't keep going back. It doesn't keep replaying memories. It doesn't keep wondering, what if? It becomes quiet. It becomes still. But when the heart is still searching, It means something was never fully understood. Something was never fully processed. Something never reached its natural ending. And so the heart continues its search, not loudly, not always consciously, but quietly, in the background of their thoughts, when they find themselves thinking about you in moments they didn't expect. They remember things they thought they forgot. They feel something they can't explain, and they begin to question themselves again. Why am I still thinking about this? Why does this still matter? Because the heart is still trying to complete something, still trying to find closure, still trying to reach a point where it can finally rest. But here is the deeper truth. Sometimes the heart searches, not because the person is meant to return, but because the lesson is not yet understood. Because until the heart understands what it needed to learn, it will keep going back, not to the person, but to the meaning behind the experience. And once that meaning becomes clear, once the heart finally understands, once it accepts what Allah has written, that is when the searching stops. Not suddenly, but gently. The thoughts become lighter. The pull becomes weaker. The memory loses its hold, and the heart finally rests. So if their heart is still searching for you, it doesn't always mean you're meant to come back into their life, but it does mean that something inside them is still unfinished, still unfolding, still being shaped by what once existed between you. And until that process is complete, no matter how much they try to move on, a part of them will continue to look for you in places where you no longer are. So if someone is trying to forget you, but they keep failing, don't rush to judge it. Don't immediately call it weakness or attachment, because sometimes what stays in the heart is not there by accident. It's there because Allah allowed it to stay. Not forever, not always for reunion, but for a reason that goes deeper than what we can see. Maybe it was meant to change them. Maybe it was meant to soften their heart. Maybe it was meant to bring them closer to Allah in a way nothing else could. Because some people don't enter your life to stay. They enter to transform you, to show you something real, to awaken something inside you, to take you to a place you've never been before. And then they leave. But what they leave behind stays, not to hurt you forever, but to shape you into who you are becoming. So if they are still thinking about you, if your memory still returns to them, if something inside them hasn't let go yet, understand this gently. It doesn't always mean you are meant to be together again, but it does mean what happened between you was never meaningless. And one day, when Allah completes what He started in their heart, when the lesson becomes clear, when the qalb finally understands, the searching will stop, the weight will lift, and peace will take its place. Because what is truly written for you will never leave you confused. It will not disturb your peace. It will not leave your heart restless. It will arrive clearly, calmly, in a way you don't have to question. So trust Allah, even in what you don't understand. Trust what He removes. Trust what He allows to stay. Trust the timing, even when it feels slow, because every feeling, every memory, every connection is part of something being written for you. And what is truly yours will never miss you, and what is not, no matter how deeply it is felt, will eventually be replaced by something better, something clearer, something that finally brings your heart the peace it has been searching for. If this reminded you of someone, take a quiet moment and make a small dua for your heart. Ask Allah to give you clarity, to remove what is not written for you, and to bring what truly belongs to you closer in the most beautiful way. And if this message touched you, stay connected, because sometimes one reminder at the right moment can change everything inside you. May Allah guide your heart and give you peace.